Welcome to History Channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. Ronald Reagan, then governor of California, met President Gerald Ford on Halloween night in 1974 at Century Plaza, Los Angeles. The meeting took place amid political tension following Nixon's resignation. Both men, dressed formally while others celebrated Halloween, discussed America's uncertain future during a moment that hinted at the GOP's coming shift. Franklin D. Roosevelt and Joseph Stalin stood beside Winston Churchill at his birthday celebration in Tehran. 1943. It was a rare moment of warmth during the Tehran Conference, where the Big Three planned the final defeat of Nazi Germany. Their smiles masked deep mistrust, yet unity prevailed under the shadow of war. In Berlin, 1931, Joseph Goebbels sat with his hand to his face, listening to Walter Ulbricht at a rare joint communist-Nazi event. The tension between ideologies filled the hall. Within 2 years, both men would rise to power on opposing sides, marking one of history's darkest political ironies. Mount Rushmore's creation faced unyielding granite, financial collapse, and the threat of war. Guts and Borglum envisioned carving the presidents to their waists, but only their heads were completed. The 1936 photograph captures workers suspended on ropes, chiseling at what became a monumental symbol of ambition halted by time and circumstance. Malaysian Rangers stepped from an RAF Belu when helicopter onto the dense border of Malaysia and Thailand in May 1965. Their mission was part of the anti-insurgency operations against communist guerrillas. The humid air, thick jungle, and tension of unseen threats defined the dangerous calm before each patrol. 2 young students shared a small dorm room at the University of Illinois in 1910, surrounded by books, a lamp, and simple furniture. The photo captures the spirit of early American academia. It reflects a generation stepping into modern education at a time when the world was rapidly changing. Italian and German soldiers, weary and dust-covered, surrendered to a lone South African soldier at Bardia, Libya. Around December 1941, the desert wind carried silence after fierce fighting. This moment marked one of the early Allied victories in North Africa, shifting the momentum of the campaign toward the British forces. Soong Mei-ling, the First Lady of the Republic of China, visited the United States in 1943 to rally support during World War II. Fluent in English and dressed elegantly, she addressed Congress with grace and strength, becoming a powerful voice for China's struggle against Japan and a symbol of diplomatic resilience. A young Xi Jinping appeared in Xiamen in 1985, working as a local official during China's reform years. Dressed simply, he represented a new generation of pragmatic leaders emerging after the Cultural Revolution. The photograph captures an unguarded moment of a man who would one day lead a global superpower. Truus and Freddie Overstegen, teenage sisters from Haarlem, Netherlands, joined the Dutch resistance in 1939. Still in their teens, they used their youth to deceive Nazi occupiers before striking with deadly precision. Their courage defied occupation, proving that even the smallest voices could echo loudly in the fight for freedom. Orson Welles raised his hand for silence inside CBS's radio studio in October 1938. His War of the Worlds broadcast blurred fiction and reality, sending waves of panic through listeners who missed the opening disclaimer. The tension in the studio mirrored the hysteria outside, a testament to storytelling's extraordinary power. Men of Finland's 7th Hämeenlinna sharpshooters Battalions stood in formation sometime in the 1890s, serving under the Russian Empire. They carried pride in their Finnish identity despite foreign command. Their sharp uniforms and disciplined posture reflected a time when loyalty and quiet resistance intertwined beneath imperial rule. A lone soldier stood guard atop Beijing's Xiamen Gate in 1946, captured by life photographer Dmitry Kessel. The war had ended, but China's civil strife continued. The ancient gate beneath his feet symbolized endurance through centuries of upheaval as modern China stood on the edge of transformation. Justice William Brennan smiled gently as he celebrated his 81st birthday in his Supreme Court chambers in April 1987, surrounded by papers and law books. He reflected decades of service shaping American constitutional law. His influence on individual rights and equality marked him as one of the court's most enduring voices. The White Ribbon Army certification of 1886 marked a moment in social reform history. Symbolizing temperance and moral revival, it was awarded to those pledging purity and discipline. This emblem connected ordinary citizens to a growing global movement advocating self-control, unity, and moral order in a rapidly industrializing world. 9 European kings stood together in one historic photograph taken during King Edward VII's funeral in May 1910. Was the last gathering of such monarchs before World War I. Beneath their polished uniforms lay rivalries and alliances that would soon unravel the European order within just 4 turbulent years. Young Jewish members of the B'atar youth movement posed in Berlin. 1936. Their eyes carried both pride and defiance under the shadow of rising Nazi power. Founded on Zionist ideals, B'atar inspired hope and resistance, even as its members faced persecution that would soon engulf the entire continent. Nat King Cole's family posed proudly outside their Los Angeles home in the late 1950s, despite moving into a white neighborhood that met them with racism, arson, and cruelty. They refused to leave. Their quiet dignity under fire became a powerful symbol of perseverance and civil rights in mid-century America. Crowds filled Times Square in 1998, eyes fixed on giant screens showing the finale of Seinfeld. For millions of New Yorkers, it marked the end of an era in television comedy. Laughter, nostalgia, and disbelief mixed in the air as a city paused to bid farewell to a cultural phenomenon. The airplane HL-7442 stood gleaming in 1980, years before tragedy struck as Korean Air Flight 007. The photo captures its calm before fate intervened. In 1983, it was shot down by the Soviet Union, killing all aboard, a reminder of Cold War tensions where human lives often became political messages. Hitler stood in the rain at Wolfschan Station on July 20, 1944, waiting to receive Mussolini. Just hours earlier, he had narrowly survived an assassination attempt by his own officers. The damp uniform, clenched jaw, and cameras concealed the chaos behind the regime's facade of unbroken authority. Howard Carter knelt inside King Tutankhamun's tomb around 1922, peering at treasures untouched for millennia. The flicker of lamplight revealed gold, statues, and mystery. His discovery reignited global fascination with ancient Egypt and changed archaeology forever, linking modern curiosity with a civilization long buried beneath the sands. A Nigerian Ilyushin Il-28 Beagle bomber taxied across a dusty airfield during the Biafra War between 1967 and 1970, Soviet-built and Nigerian-operated. It symbolized Cold War influence in Africa. The conflict left deep scars, with air power turning the skies into a weapon of fear and devastation. Messerschmitt Bf 110 lay wrecked in London after being shot down on October 10, 1940. Its twisted metal and smoke-filled remains reflected the fierce struggle of the Battle of Britain. For many Londoners, this fallen aircraft became both a symbol of victory and the high cost of survival. A U.S. Navy F-6 F-3 Hellcat rested on the deck of the USS Yorktown in May 1943, sleek and powerful. It represented America's growing air superiority in the Pacific. Each takeoff and landing carried the weight of war, as young pilots faced the vast uncertainty of the skies ahead. A monk stands silently at the Temple of Azure Clouds, nestled near the fragrant hills of Beijing around 1915. The temple's serene courtyards and rising incense capture centuries of Buddhist devotion. His calm figure against misty stone steps reflects a moment of peace within a nation, quietly approaching immense political change. A young Lebanese couple walks out of Babda Town Hall on their wedding day in July 1982, smiling despite the chaos of civil war. Behind them, a relative from the Lebanese forces holds a rifle, blending love and survival into a single image of hope amid decades of conflict. Flapper and New Yorker columnist Lois Long shares a mischievous smile in 1921, caught by Edward Steichen's lens as a shocked staff member looks on. The photo captures the collision between eras, Victorian restraint meeting Jazz Age rebellion when modern women began to rewrite society's rules with laughter, lipstick, and defiance. A German student listens intently during a racial education class in 1943. The lesson, dictated by Nazi ideology, was part of a vast propaganda effort shaping young minds toward conformity. The sterile classroom masks the moral emptiness beneath a system built on obedience, manipulation, and the erasure of humanity. Crowds in Stanleyville, Belgian Congo, gather in 1960, waving banners and chanting for independence. The air hums with anticipation and anger as colonial power begins to crumble. Within months, the Congo would gain freedom. But the photo freezes that fragile instant between hope and the turmoil that would soon follow. Lucita Lears, once known as Martha Lucy Crickle, soars midair in 1933 beneath the big top of Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. Her graceful movements masked years of discipline and danger. For audiences during the Great Depression, her daring flight offered a brief escape from life's heavy weight. An orchestra of Romani violinists plays in Novzanki, Hungary. On a cold November day in 1938, their music carries the warmth of centuries-old tradition. Unaware of the dark tide approaching Europe's Romani communities, the image preserves not just faces, but a culture's final notes before tragedy struck. Earl Dennison sits in Kilby Prison in 1953, her expression unreadable. A respected nurse turned murderer, she poisoned her niece for insurance money. The case shocked Alabama and raised questions about greed, trust, and the nature of evil behind familiar faces. Justice would come swiftly, but not without sorrow. Jewish survivors of the Hebron massacre gather in 1929, their eyes heavy with grief and disbelief. The violence had torn through their community, ending centuries of coexistence. The image stands as a quiet testimony to endurance, showing faces that bore witness to a tragedy written into the region's painful memory. Ulysses Grant, frail yet resolute, writes his memoirs on the porch of his New York cottage around 1885. Facing terminal illness and financial ruin, the former president raced against time to complete his story. Each page became both a farewell and a final act of quiet heroism. A Maori soldier stands in the trenches of Gallipoli in November 1915, his gaze steady amid exhaustion. The campaign had cost countless lives, yet he and his comrades endured with pride. His presence reflects the courage of indigenous soldiers fighting far from home in a war not truly theirs. Tourists smile for a photo beside a soldier of East Germany's National People's Army at the tomb of the unknown soldier in the 1980s. The staged moment hides the reality of the divided city around them, where honor and ideology stood guard side by side in uneasy silence. In the 1950s, kindergarten nap time was sacred. Rows of small beds lined the classroom, and teachers insisted on quiet rest. The scene spoke of a gentler rhythm of childhood, when structure and simplicity shaped early education, long before screens and schedules began to crowd the innocence of early years. Erich Honecker stares into the camera during his Gestapo mugshot in December 1935, arrested for his Marxist beliefs. The young man's defiant eyes reveal a conviction that would one day lead him to rule East Germany. The photograph freezes a moment when ideology, repression, and fate briefly crossed paths. Grumman F-4F Wildcats glide in tight formation over the Pacific in mid-1943. The planes display a short-lived red-outlined insignia, marking a fleeting design in U.S. aviation history. Once fierce defenders of naval fleets, the aging Wildcats were soon replaced, leaving behind the legacy of pilots who fought with unmatched courage. German zoologists John Hagenbeck and Ludwig Heck stand beside an Asian woman and children inside a so-called human zoo in Colombo. 1931. The disturbing exhibition reflects a colonial fascination with displaying people as curiosities. The smiling faces mask exploitation, revealing how science and racism once intertwined under the guise of culture. Liberated prisoners at Dachau turn on a captured camp guard in April 1945. The rage of years under cruelty erupts in a moment of vengeance. The raw emotion captured here speaks not of justice alone, but of the deep scars left on those who survived the darkest chapter of humanity. Wreckage lies scattered across the Andes after a plane crash in 1972. Survivors, isolated for weeks in freezing mountains, faced the impossible choice of cannibalism to stay alive. When rescue finally came, they were both heroes and symbols of human endurance, pushed to its absolute limit. The ancient Porta Salaria stands in 1870, its stones weathered by centuries. Once the entry point for Alaric's Goths during the sack of Rome in 410, it was soon demolished as the modern city expanded. The photograph captures a final glimpse of the gate where empire and eternity once met. An elderly man stands quietly in a German-occupied Soviet village in 1942. His weathered face tells of hunger, fear, and silent defiance. Surrounded by war and occupation, he remains rooted to his land, a living monument to survival amid the relentless machinery of invasion and loss. Jean-Marie Villemin visits his son's grave after killing the man accused of the boy's abduction in 1987. The Gregory case gripped France with mystery and sorrow. The photo shows a father consumed by grief, justice, and unanswered questions, a tragedy that remains etched in the nation's collective memory. Władysław Bielinski, a Polish schoolteacher, stands moments before execution in 1939. The Nazis targeted intellectuals first, knowing their ideas could resist tyranny. His calm posture in the face of death honors thousands who perished in silence, their sacrifice preserving a nation's conscience when its freedom was violently stripped away. Ottoman officers pose proudly in a photo studio in Istanbul. 1914. Their polished uniforms and steady eyes reflect an empire on the brink of transformation. Within months, they would march into the Great War, unaware that the centuries-old Ottoman legacy would soon crumble into history's fading shadow. A Soviet refugee camp in Luxembourg, October 1944, shelters men and women once enslaved under Nazi rule. Liberated but displaced, they await uncertain futures. The tents and makeshift beds tell of endurance amid loss, as Allied forces bring both freedom and the painful reckoning of what survival truly meant.